He waited alone on the cold park bench, his hands trembling as he clutched a single red rose. The snowflakes fell gently, melting as they landed on his coat, but his heart felt frozen in time. For years, he had been waiting, waiting for forgiveness, waiting for a chance, waiting for her. Today was supposed to be that day. He had written the letter, sent the message, and she had replied with only a few words, "I'll come." Across the park, laughter of children echoed through the air. It was a bright sound against the gray sky, but he couldn't bring himself to smile. He had promised her once that he would always make her laugh. But promises, sometimes they get lost when life gets too heavy. They had fought, words sharper than knives, and before he could make it right, she left, with their little girl in her arms. That was 3 years ago. 3 long, empty Christmases ago. He rubbed his hands together, glancing at his watch. She was late. Maybe she wasn't coming. Maybe she'd changed her mind. He closed his eyes, trying to silence the voice in his head that whispered, "You deserve this loneliness." The park around him blurred into a haze of falling snow and distant laughter. Then, a small voice broke through. "Excuse me, mister." He turned. A little girl, no more than 6, stood beside him, wearing a pink hat with a pom-pom on top. Her cheeks were flushed red from the cold, and her mitten-clad hands held a small paper cup of hot chocolate. She looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. "My mommy told me to give this to you," she said softly, extending the cup toward him. He hesitated. "To me?" She nodded. "She said you've been waiting a long time." His heart skipped. He looked around, but he couldn't see anyone who looked familiar. The little girl smiled shyly. "Mommy's just wiping her tears," she whispered. The words hit him like lightning. He felt his throat tighten as he followed the direction of the girl's pointing finger. There, standing by the old oak tree, was her. The woman he had once called his everything. She was holding a small tissue to her face, her shoulders trembling as she tried to wipe away tears. He stood up slowly, afraid that if he moved too quickly, the fragile moment might disappear. The little girl grinned and ran back toward her mother. He watched as the woman knelt to scoop the girl into her arms, kissing her cheek before turning her gaze toward him. Their eyes met, and time seemed to stop. The years melted away, the arguments, the distance, the pain. All that was left was 2 people who once loved each other more than anything, now standing on the edge of forgiveness. She began walking toward him, each step uncertain but full of hope. When she finally stood before him, her voice trembled. "You really waited." He nodded, unable to find the right words. "Every day," he whispered. "I didn't know if you'd come." She smiled sadly, looking down at the rose in his hand. "You never changed," she said softly. "Still believing in things most people give up on." He took a deep breath. "I gave up once," he admitted. "And it broke us. I won't make that mistake again." For a moment, they stood there, 2 broken hearts trying to find the courage to fit back together. The little girl ran up again and tugged her mother's hand. "Mommy, can we go home now?" Her mother looked at him, tears welling up once more. "Would you like to walk with us?" He smiled for the first time in years, nodding. "I'd like that." As they walked down the snowy path, the little girl swung her small arms between them, her laughter filling the air like a song. The woman glanced at him, her eyes soft and warm again. "You know," she said quietly, "she's been asking about you. I told her father was someone who once loved us more than anything, but life got in the way." He swallowed hard. "I never stopped loving you both," he said. "I just didn't know how to fix what I broke." She squeezed his hand gently. "Maybe this is how we start." The 3 of them walked together, leaving a trail of footprints behind, new ones, side by side. The park lights flickered on, casting a golden glow over the snow, and for the first time in years, the world didn't feel so cold. He looked down at his daughter, her tiny face full of joy, and then at the woman beside him. Sometimes, love doesn't return in grand gestures or perfect moments, it comes quietly, in forgiveness, in patience, in the small voice of a little girl who believes her mommy's tears can finally dry. As they disappeared into the distance, the snow kept falling, soft and endless. The rose in his hand began to thaw, and for the first time in a long while, so did his heart. The message was clear: sometimes, love doesn't need to be found again, it just needs to be forgiven. And sometimes, it takes a child's innocent words to remind two hearts what they were always meant to be, a family.